Quick, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Hopefully, celebrating the 10-year anniversary of me asking you this question. With the future of Major League Baseball so in doubt for not only just a decade from now, but say right freaking now, it's hard to speculate as to what kind of world we will be living in.
So, how do you feel about a pay cut?
How much are we talking?
Let's just say a lot.
But it's fun to try. Players coming and going, a new fan experience, and the game might just look completely different. What will the MLB look like 10 years from now is coming up right after this. Hold up, we got a new product alert and it's brought to you by, you guessed it, Manscaped.com. And lucky you, since you watch my channel, you're the first to preview the all-new Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer from Manscaped. As you get older, looking good is pretty tough. And on top of that, hair grows in places it shouldn't, like your nose and your horrific ears. When I notice one hair wants to go all maverick and I get the tweezers out to pull it, that's just a bad move. Enter in the Weed Whacker, which uses the same proprietary skin-safe technology as the lawnmower to reduce snags, nicks, and tugs in your most sensitive area. With 9,000 RPM and a 360-degree rotary dual-blade system, you'll be trimming down the most unsightly hairs on your body and keep you from looking like a party favor. So after this video, head to manscaped.com and get the cordless Weed Whacker and opt for the peak hygiene plan so you get a replaceable blade every 3 months delivered right to your door. Use my code 5points and you will get 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com, code 5points. Thank you, Manscaped, for taking care of unwanted hair above and below the waist. Manscaped.com. Professional sports thrive on the popularity of their superstars, and while the MLB has been criticized for its inability to market its biggest names, they still have an upper echelon of elites that have become staples of the game and shape the narratives that drive interest in the sport. Think about the tension that's derived from knowing Clayton Kershaw's postseason history every time he takes the mound in October, and the subsequent crying Jordan memes that result when his fastball gets hammered in Glendale. Similarly, we know every time Giancarlo Stanton enters the box, the ball could end up in the Atlantic Ocean or he strikes out. And every time Jose Altuve stands next to Aaron Judge, 1,000 photographers will snap a picture. But we can't count on all of those guys to be around in 2030. Kershaw will be 42, Stanton will be 40, and Altuve will be 4 decades old as well. Has the game cultivated enough future stars to market baseball 10 years from now? One of the big narratives could be the record-breaking numbers of someone like Mike Trout. At age 28, Trout has amassed 285 homers, 3 MVPs, 7 Silver Sluggers, and 8 All-Star trips. It's plenty conceivable that even without a 2020 season, Trout could be in a spot to break Barry Bonds' record of 7 league MVPs. Especially now that team success is rarely a factor, voters have had a hard time giving the nod to anyone but Trout. Christian Yelich, barring injury, should be playing at a high level at age 38, as should Aaron Judge at the same age. Factoring in the improvements in modern surgery and an emphasis on recovery, diet, and fitness, stars should have extended primes and become revered fixtures in the sport, a la Derek Jeter or David Ortiz. Speaking of someone like Ortiz, baseball hasn't been able to market recent stars because there just hasn't been the same level of charisma since a guy like Big Papi or his teammate Manny Ramirez. Stars like Trout, Yelich, and Judge have been reserved, superstars by occupation rather than lifestyle. Perhaps the new generation of bat flippers could pick up the torch. A new crop of players led by Juan Soto have backed up their borderline cockiness and innate sense of showmanship with massive bombs. Baseball also has a far higher percentage of non-American players than the NFL or NBA and should continue to highlight that diversity in order to garner a wider international audience. Up-and-coming superstars and current ones like Shohei Ohtani, Soto, Carlos Correa, Ronald Acuna, Gleyber Torres, and Bartolo Colon should all be fixtures in the MLB for years to come, and will draw the eyes of not just the United States, but the world at large, even the Canadian-born Joey Votto.
Alright, I'll take over this part here. You know me, GiraffeNeckMarc, that like crazy obsessive Mets fan. Let me give you some knowledge. Baseball needs to be driven by its stars if it wants to be successful. But how is the game going to cater to the fans? Currently, baseball caters to about 3 types of fans. The super old dudes, we call them boomers, diehard fans, kind of like me, and stat nerds. Foolish baseball. Unfortunately, all the old-time fans, the boomers, they remember a time when baseball was king, and they're gonna be dead in what, like 10 years, 20, 30? All of them, no exceptions. So that leaves us with 2 remaining demographics in baseball at that point. In order for baseball to remain a major part of American sports, one of the big 4, you've got to get the casual fan to care, to watch, to be interested. So how does Major League Baseball do that? Baseball has to start framing itself as entertainment, as opposed to these 54 interconnected outcomes that mathematically come to the game of baseball. That's not interesting to the casual fan. You gotta make the game, like we said, more entertaining. Do stuff that you've done during the All-Star game, during spring training. Mic up players, that would be fantastic. Who doesn't remember the great moments of Charlie Blackmon quoting Michael Scott in the outfield in 2018? Or Anthony Rizzo at the plate calling out what pitch he thinks coming?
I'm doing some math in my head what he's gonna throw.
What do you got?
I have no idea.
Guys taking shots at the Astros in spring training.
I wish I knew. Someone banged for me.
Not only does it make the game more entertaining to watch from a casual standpoint, but it gives these players a personality, and it allows Major League Baseball to build on these personalities easier. There's great personalities out there. Use them. Just maybe if you're gonna mic up Pete Alonso, have it on a little bit of a delay. Likes to use the F-bomb a little bit.
Oh boy, he smelled. If you guys just get that, you just fucking smell that.
That's my boy. Overall, the goal is that Major League Baseball needs to become a more entertaining sport, needs to embrace its players, needs to embrace having fun. It's pretty simple.
Thanks, GiraffeNeckMarc. Appreciate it. Everyone sub to his channel. Access is another measure. Current cable deals restrict fans from watching their own local team, as do MLB TV blackouts for cable-cutting fans. Increased access via the magic of the internet rather than cable is the way of the future, and the MLB would be wise to get as many potential fans an easy avenue to viewing their product. It seems obvious, but it's something baseball and cable companies have been slow to realize. Access extends to the in-person experience, too. The average ticket price for a Chicago Cubs game in 2019 costs $128. All of that for the Cubs. An MLB ticket on the secondary market costs close to $80. Not ideal for anyone but an upper-class fan, and certainly not something that could become a regular activity for an average family of 5. Throw in the fact that the price of a beer at Wrigley is $9.50 and $6.50 more for a plain hot dog. It's an expensive affair for something that happens 81 plus times a year. At some point, the MLB will have to reckon with exorbitant prices that don't attract working class fans. Who knows what inflation will look like in 10 years, but if prices stay near stagnant until then, that would be a giant W for the fans. That or we learn to smuggle in our own beer. Speaking of families, they need to feel safe. Hitting line drives into the stands feels like an unnecessary relic of the past, and increased netting or other barriers should be implemented to protect fans from screaming projectiles being lined at their heads. In no other sport are missiles being fired into the crowd, aside from when Josh Allen tries to throw an out route. American sports are about the people on the field suffering major brain trauma, not the fans. Finally, what is the on-field product going to look like in 2030? We've already experienced change in the offseason that will be realized once play resumes. The biggest issue, and one with plenty of controversy, will be the implementation of a robot umpire. Some fans believe that human error is part of the game and gives it the character and unpredictability that makes it great, while others would argue that games and careers worth millions of dollars should not be left in the hands of Joe West and his cronies. The MLB was set to experiment with robot umpires in minor league stadiums come 2020, but, well, you know, damn son. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said, "I think we need to be ready to use an automated strike zone when the time is right. That's why we experimented in the Atlantic League. It's why we went to the Arizona Fall League. It's why we're using it in minor league baseball next year, in some ballparks at least." Manfred has also made it clear that they will not make the switch to a fully automated strike zone until the technology is perfect. Perhaps sometime before 2030. It's already better than Angel Hernandez though. Baseball has already committed to making the game more streamlined. Significant rule changes such as a pitch clock and limiting pitching changes will go a long way to shortening the average runtime of games, which actually increased by a full 16 minutes from 2010 to 2020. Of course, a lot of that has to do with longer innings due to more potent offenses. Eventually, the MLB will have to make a decision. Shorter games or more high-scoring games? Sorry, you can't have both. Something like shortening fences or alleged juicing of balls would give the fans the satisfaction of seeing dingers upon dingers.
At home they call me Big Al, and I hit dingers.
But at the cost of a quicker pace. Here's a few other things we could see in a decade. All of these things await baseball in just 10 years. The sport may look different than the game we grew up with, but at its heart, it will all be the same. The changes are to keep the sport relevant, to make sure it's a game passed down from parents to children, to ensure it remains a respite on a spring afternoon to grab a hot dog and watch 9 innings. In 2030, baseball will be baseball like we've never seen it before, but it will always be the same pastime we grew up with. See you in 10 years. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to check out Manscaped and use my code 5points for 20% off your first order and free shipping. And also, don't forget to check out GiraffeNeckMarc and subscribe to his channel. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video, but not the next Major League Baseball game.